recommend the beginner student to stick to the books of the Salaf. Could you recommend some available in the English language?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. And right, first and foremost, before we recommend books, we recommend apprenticeship. We recommend that you take a teacher, an instructor, quote unquote, a mentor, someone that can guide you upon the path, guide you through the path, and guide you through the path. That's first and foremost. Once you get a personal teacher, even if it's just part-time, he's traveling, he's busy, he has other obligations, but someone that you can contact personally, through the phone, through email, in person, and give you specific personal instruction, tailored instruction. Ask him what he recommends for you. That's first and foremost. As for the specific question, that I would say, first and foremost, is the Quran al-Azim. The Quran al-Azim is the first book that should be studied. Thank you. It is the most important book to be studied and to be understood and to be memorized and constantly to be reflected upon and pondered and thought over. The Quran al-Azim. So, I think that's first and foremost. And everything that you want is in the Quran al-Azim. From Tawheed and Aqidah, Iman, from fiqh, from spirituality, from rulings, the lawful, the unlawful, the list goes on. That's first and foremost. As far as these specific books, with regards to seeking knowledge, and the etiquettes and the manners from among the ulama of the past, then every book of hadith that has a chapter on ilm. Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abi Dawood, Jami' al-Tirmidhi, Sunan Nasa'i, Sunan Ibn Majah, the introduction, and the list goes on. Any book of hadith that has a specific chapter on what? Seeking knowledge. We say these are the things that you should be reading. And that's why, alhamdulillah, when we made our book, 40 Hadith on Seeking Knowledge, we only mentioned Sunnah. That's it. We didn't mention statements of the Salaf, of the Tabi'een. We only mentioned what Muhammad ﷺ said. Not saying, as we said before, that there's no value in anything else. And when we say, going back to the books of the ulama, of the Salaf, it does not mean that there's no value in the ulama after. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean no disrespect to anyone else. But we call you back to the earliest tradition as possible. So therefore, a person who wishes to seek knowledge, there are many books of the past and of the present. From the best of them, which is in the English language. Let's see, what's in the English language? I would say Fadl al-Ilm al-Salaf ala Ilm al-Khalaf. It's a book that's written by a later scholar, Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali rahimahullah, died in the 8th century. However, he was upon the way of the earlier previous ulama. And the title of the book is clear and simple. The superiority of the knowledge of the early Muslims over the knowledge of the later Muslims. It's been translated some years ago, and it's a very comprehensive, beneficial book, even in English. And he talks about the types of knowledge, the categories of knowledge, the importance of knowledge, and how the people strayed away from the path of the Salaf al-Salih in ilm. That's one of the best books. We've done a few lessons on this book. That's one of the best books that you can find in English. In a whole, or in a larger picture, there aren't too many books that I know of in my humble knowledge that are the classical, traditional books that are in English. The book of ilm of Ibn Khaytham rahimahullah has been translated into English, I believe. And there are a few other simple books that have been made, but most of the classical works are still in Arabic. As far as the ulama of today, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, Shaykh Bakr Abu Zayd rahimahullah, and many others, they have books that have been put into the English language that you can benefit from. And perhaps those books can lead you to the earlier books, bi'idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's nothing like studying in Arabic. It's nothing like getting the food in its natural, organic state. No preservatives, no colors, no dye, no additives. Natural, raw, organic food. It should be studied in the Arabic language. As far as in English, then bi'idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you can't find a specific book, then at least you can have someone that can explain it from the Arabic to you in English until you grow strong enough to read it yourself in Arabic. Last but not least, brothers and sisters, seeking knowledge in English should be relatively temporary. It should be relatively temporary. Learn the basics with the intention of learning Arabic. Learn a few things, a few rulings, a few important manners, and then that's it. Now it should be obsolete. And you should only go back to the English when you want to check something, when you want to check your translation, or if you just enjoy reading things in English, like I do. I read English books. And brothers who say, I've been overseas, I don't read English no more, not me. I still have a ton of English books, and I love to read English. Everybody understand this? But your studies should not be permanent in English. And there are many books, the brother asked me a couple nights ago in your office about Fath al-Bari and books like this being translated into English. We said there's certain types of knowledge and certain levels of knowledge that should not be accessible and should not be studied and taught except on a what? High advanced level. And these or certain books are for advanced people that speak Arabic fluently, let alone someone who can barely speak what? Can barely speak Arabic. So therefore, if you just want some general benefit, that's one thing. If you want to be, in the middle, that's one thing. It says studious layman, that's one thing. But if you aspire to be an actual student of ilm, full-time, professional, you want to go overseas, you want to learn, you want to memorize, full-time, real deal, you want to go pro, then there lies no doubt you should make your aspirations to learn Arabic. Once you know the simple basic things that you need in Tawheed, simple basic things that you need in purification and Salah, that's it, khalas. Now move on to learning Arabic and studying Arabic and reading those books, which are many and ample in number, classical books in Arabic. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. There's a question here which says, my wife doesn't produce enough breast milk, so her first cousin breastfeeds our daughter. Will my daughter still have to cover from her son once they reach the age of puberty? Once a woman breastfeeds a child more than 5 times, or at least 5 times, that child in Islamic law becomes her child from suckling, ar-rada' or breastfeeding. It becomes like her own child. So any other child who also breastfed and suckled from the same woman at least 5 times or more is a brother or a sister to that child. Whether or irregardless, the child is her own child or someone else. Her own child or someone else. So if this woman, let's say she is called Fatima, she has a son called Ali and Ahmad, you understand? Fatima has a son called who and who? Ali and Ahmad. And the sister's asking a question. Now she has a daughter called Maryam. So Maryam breastfeeds from who? From Fatima, who has a son, Ali and Ahmad. Once she breastfeeds 5 times at least or more, 5 times at least or more, and her children, she has 2 sons, they become brothers and sisters according to ar-rada'a, suckling. And that is what the Prophet ﷺ directed us. He says at least 5 sucklings, meaning the child drinks until he gives up himself, and then he drinks again until he gives up himself 5 times. If it's in the same day, if it's within 2 weeks, if it's within 1 year, it doesn't matter. After that they become brothers and sisters, so they don't have to cover, and they cannot marry each other. They cannot marry each other. They cannot marry each other. Naam. Wallahu a'lam. Tfaddal, Shaykh.
I'm not trying to sift through these questions. I'm just trying to figure out which ones came earlier. Those who put the questions before,
This was a late.
yeah, they should have precedence. Question says, attending a gathering that has nasheed without music and tafsir of Quran, is it permissible? To keep things simple and brief, to preserve the time and the answer of all of these questions, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help, I would say, go to the majlis. If you have the ability to advise them to do that which is best, then that's what you should do. And my personal advice would be to avoid arguing and debating the issue of anashid, because you're going to find yourself in what we call a wirta. Go to them and tell them what's best. Let's sit, let's read these books, let's study these books, and the best way that we possibly can. Anashid, haram or not, let's just focus on reading the tafsir and studying the tafsir and benefiting as the Prophet ﷺ would do with his companions. That's best. Because once you start opening up an argument, you may not be ready to finish the argument. You may not be able to finish it correctly, and you may have doubt. So these things, me personally, if you're not an expert, if you're not really skilled, you should avoid speaking on them. And there's no khilaf There's no difference of opinion among any scholar, any school of thought about that which is best. Ahsan. And the best thing is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How to recite Allah's Quran is well known and clear. How to study those books is well known and clear. So stick with that which is agreed upon, and then step by step, gradually, you can go into those other issues that may be problematic. This is my personal advice. As for someone who's a big talib al-ilm, who's strong, then that's one thing. Let's talk about anashid. He feels anashid are haram, or at least disliked, then he should tell them and speak about that specifically. As for someone who's a beginner, who isn't that strong, then he should do what, Sam? He should what? Ibta'id. He should avoid and stay away from problematic things. It's very important, brothers and sisters. Very important. Or say something based off what you know, and that's it. I heard in the class, anashid are haram. I read a fatwa of Sheikh Fulan that I trust and respect, a well-known alim, that anashid are haram. That's best. But if you don't know why anashid are haram, and the proofs and this and that, then you do not make a decisive statement. Very important qaida usuliyah. Al-ami yabta'id al-inkar. General layman Muslim should avoid making inkar, criticizing and repudiating people, unless he specifically knows of the dalil and how to use the dalil. As far as if you're still someone who's blindly following with someone else, then you should do as we said last night, tabligh, convey. I heard in the class, anashid are haram. I heard in the class, kada wa kada. I've learned from this alim that we shouldn't do this. This is the tape, this is the lecture, that's what he mentioned. But you may not know the proof. You may not know how the proof is used. You can't say, it's haram, it's haram. Intabi. Be careful. Unless it's something that's clearly haram and everybody knows and agrees on. That's one thing. That's one thing. But if it's something that could go more than one way, then you should be what? You should be careful. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Next question. I'll read for you, Sheikh.
There's one here.
Right.
It says, can we limit contact with relatives who are non-Muslim, who don't respect the Islamic upbringing of our children? Can we limit contact with relatives who are non-Muslim and they don't respect the Islamic upbringing of our children? The answer is yes, but not just non-Muslims. Even if your relatives are Muslims, even if they're your closest relatives, and they do not wish and they do not agree with you in the correct upbringing of your children in something which is clearly haram, something which clearly contradicts the teachings of Islam, then yes, you should limit contact with them. Especially if you know, like the Sheikh just answered, especially if you know that you yourself, you become weak in front of them and you cannot advise them, so they have an effect on you, then it is advisable for you to limit. We're not saying to cut them off, no. You limit the time you spend with them. Or even if you have to send your children to them, then make sure there's supervision from someone who you trust. And that is what you do. You don't cut off your relatives, because that is a major sin in Islam. But at the same time, you don't just let loose everything and everything goes. Wallahu a'lam.
What advice, nasiha, can you give to people close to you who are committing zina and are deeply stuck in their relationship? Advise them to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that zina is haram, it is despicable, it's reprehensible, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He hates it. And there are many hadith that talk about how horrible zina is. So that would be my advice, the advice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the advice of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he commanded us to fear Allah and to avoid that which angers Allah. Rather, Allah says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُ الزِّنَا. He doesn't say, وَلَا تَزْنُوا. Don't make zina. It says, don't come near zina. Do not approach zina. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't take a step towards it, what do you think about being what? Deep into it. And I would say, يعني, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغَارُ. The Prophet ﷺ, he explained to us, Allah hates these things. Allah, yani, He has ghayrah. He envies for His slave to go to haram things and do haram things. Allah is jealous. Fahisha is serious. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He hates these acts and He does not love for His slaves to perform those acts. So that's serious. Just think about that one hadith in itself. When a slave performs the fahisha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, serious. So that would be my advice. Advise them with the Quran and the Sunnah that zina is haram, zina is unlawful, zina is a major means of bringing upon yourself Allah's wrath. So if you can, you need to stop instantly. If you need time, you need to make a step towards your long journey. And you don't want to die in that state. You don't want to die in that state. You never know when death will come to you. Wallahu alam. That's in brief. That's in brief.
This question came twice, so we'll answer it. It says for the, can the rest of the Quran, when we read Surah Al-Fatiha, we praise Allah and then we ask Him for guidance, can we consider what comes after, meaning the other parts of the Quran, is an answer to the guidance or the definition of the guidance we ask Allah? Allahu A'lam. Allahu A'lam. We ask Allah for guidance, ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, and then it is defined. Allah says, sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim, it is the path of those you have bestowed your favors upon, and those are the prophets, and those are the prophets and the siddiqeen and the shuhada and the salihin. You ask Allah to guide you to that path, and not the path of those whom Allah is angry on and those who have gone astray. So can we say the rest of the Quran from Surah Al-Baqarah is a definition of that? Allahu A'lam, I don't know. The Shaykh, the question here says, can you please explain the meaning of mutawatir hadith with an example?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam, ala rasulillah. Mutawatir hadith, in brief, is a hadith that is considered to be reported by mass tradition. That the narrations are abundant in number and they are concurrent. Mutawatir bima'na al-mutatabi'. التواتر بمعنى التتابع ثم أرسلنا رسلنا تترى متتابعين متلاحقين. So the mutawatir means something that is abundant and concurrent linguistically. As far as its meaning, according to those who speak on it, then it is a hadith that has the following characteristics. Number one, it is reported by a very large number of reporters. Number two, these large number of reporters are at every level of the chain of narration. Yani a large number of Sahaba, a large number of Tabi'een, a large number of Atba' Tabi'een until it is collected in a book. Number three, this number is so large that it is impossible for it to be yani a lie. It's impossible, according to what they say. And last but not least, they say وَأَسْنَدُهُ إِلَى شَيْءٍ مَحْسُوس, is that it's something that's tangible. We saw, we heard, we felt, we tasted, we smelt. And not something that's yani I thought. 500 people had a dream. 500 people thought of something. Something that's what? Mahsus, one of the senses. This is a brief definition of hadith which is considered or mutawatir. As for an example of a mutawatir hadith, then it is the hadith, for example, that the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed in his shoes, for example. He prayed with his shoes on, his sandals on, alayhi salatu wasalam. Or yani another more commonly yani mentioned example, as the Prophet ﷺ, yani don't lie upon me. من قال علي ما لم أقله فليتبوأ مقعده من النار. يعني there are many other hadith which are considered to be mutawatir. That's in brief. Not to go too far off the subject, the concept of mutawatir, is it from the people of hadith? Is it from the ulama of hadith, or is it from the ulama of usul, and the ulama of kalam, and the fuqaha, and even some of the people who are mubtadi'ah, who are innovators? That's a long debate in itself. Did Imam Ahmad speak about mutawatir? Ali ibn al-Madini, Ibn Ma'in, the people who came before them, Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, Yahya ibn Sayyid al-Qattan, and Shu'bah, did they talk about mutawatir? Did they know mutawatir? That's a long debate in itself. There was mashhur, without a doubt. Hadith which is known, mashhur. Hadith which is in circulation, hadith which is ghareeb and things, but did they even use the term? Did they deal with the term? And why is mutawatir so important? That's a very, 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 very long debate. The concept of when the Islamic sciences were tainted with quote-unquote this type of philosophy or rhetoric and innovations from usul, from fiqh, let alone aqidah. But just the concept that Ahl Hadith, they have a way, a manhaj, a methodology. And this is when we say the ulama of the past. Okay? So you may read in a book, and I don't want to go too far off, but yani we have certain books, people, they talk about hadith, yani the authentication of hadith, redefining the criteria. This person in his book, I have to mention his name here, yani he's making an argument based off of what he read from the ulama of the 10th and 9th and 8th century. That's not the science of hadith. The science of hadith was in full swing years before that came, and before the different Muslims had different groups and schisms and sects, and between Indian philosophy and Greek philosophy and Roman philosophy and Persian philosophy and all these different things fell upon the Islamic sciences. Okay, when we speak of usul al-fiqh, Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah was from the pioneers of usul al-fiqh. What he said, what he defined, is nothing like those people who came after him in the 4th and 5th and 6th century, like night and day. And the same applies to the sciences of hadith. These muqaddimat kalamiyah. It wasn't from the natural way of the sciences of hadith. The sciences of hadith were known, and they said in full swing before these people were even thought of. So the concept of mutawatir, and it's a big long controversy about mutawatir. Everybody understand this? Some people say anything in hadith that's not mutawatir, if it's ahad, it's rejected, and it's this and it's that. Unfortunately, wallahu a'lam. That's in what? Ikhtisar shadid. In brief, and hopefully some brothers can pick up what I'm trying to point to, and the importance and the danger of some of these terminologies and some of these concepts. And it's much more than just taqsim. It's much more than just categorizing hadith. No. There's a reason behind the mutawatir and why they say that. In other words, we accept what's mutawatir and reject that which is mutawatir. And to prove the feebleness of this argument, how many people are there for it to be mutawatir? 10? 30, 50, 70, some say 300, some say 1,000. La babit. There is no defining line of what is and what isn't mutawatir. So it's very, very dangerous concept, and we, as students of knowledge, we have to respect the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ as it was passed down and preserved and presented. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair. It says when it comes to marriage time, some parents put culture before religion when looking for a spouse for their son or daughter, and they end up giving a hard time on their children. Is this considered as an oppression, and do sins come along with it? Of course, that's an oppression. The Prophet ﷺ, he gave us a criteria of how to choose a spouse for the male or the female, for the Muslim woman who's looking for a husband, or for the Muslim man looking for a wife. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, and this is a direction to the parents. This hadith is directed to the parents. إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ فَزَوِّجُوهُ فَإِنْ لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا تَكُنْ فِتْنَةٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَفَسَادٌ كَبِيرٌ وَفَسَادٌ كَثِيرٌ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ, when someone comes to you, meaning to propose for marriage, مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ, the true criteria, the 2 points. Someone you're pleased with his deen. He's on the proper tawheed. He's on the proper aqidah. He's a good Muslim. He prays. He doesn't cheat and lie and fraud people. مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ, and his manners. He is well-disciplined, good-mannered person. 2 criteria only. فَزَوِّجُوهُ, that's a command of your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then get him married. Get him married. It don't matter what tribe he comes from. It don't matter what job he does, as long as he can provide for the house. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have to have a master's degree. He can provide. He has good deen and he has good character. فَزَوِّجُوهُ فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا, and if you don't do that, and that's what we are doing sadly today, Muslims, تَكُنْ فِتْنَةٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ, there'll be a lot of fitna, وَفَسَادٌ, and a lot of corruption. How many unwanted pregnancies we have today in the Muslim community here in Toronto? We're not talking hypothetical. How many marriages are broken because people are forced to get married because it's from the same tribe? 2 months, problems. 2 months, some of them 3 days, problems. So the parents, it's the message for you from the Prophet ﷺ. And for the girl, when someone comes to you, these are the 2 criteria you look. Good deen and good akhlaq. And of course the basic one is you can provide, because if you cannot provide, don't get married. And that is also on the other side. The Prophet ﷺ also said what? تُنْكَحُ الْمَرْأَةُ لِأَرْبَعٍ. A woman is married for what? For 4 reasons. All of you know that hadith, right? And he said lastly, فَاظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ تَرِبَتْ يَدَاكَ. Make sure you take the woman because of her religion and good manners, akhlaq. Otherwise you'll be a loser. So of course the parents, when they do that, they are making an oppression. And the parents, they have to understand that young people at that age, the emotions and all those hormones are running wild. So getting your child married to the right person when he comes, that is the best option. It's the best thing for you to do, not to delay it. Not to delay, because Allahu A'lam, whatever sin they cause after that or they fall into, you may take a share of that. Allahu A'lam.
Question says, is it an Islamic fatwa when I tell a sister how to clean herself to confirm that she is off her menstruation because the blood flow stops and woman becomes confused if she is pure or not? We say first and foremost, a woman's menses, inshallah, should be well known. When they come on and when they stop. When the mens begins, when the mens stops. Okay? It says if I tell a sister to check herself to confirm, it all depends when you check herself. In brief, we say women with regards to menstruation have different types. Some women know the amount of days. Some women can distinguish between the type of blood, the feeling of the body, the mood, the emotions, etc. And there are some women who don't have that ability, but they go back to what? That of their sisters and mothers and aunts and nieces and so on and so forth. So it all depends on the woman. What is important is that once a woman has a well-known amount of days, it's one thing, one ruling. If she doesn't have amount of days, then she goes with the distinction, etc. So therefore the question says, is it Islamic fatwa when I tell a sister how to check herself? How do you, well, it all depends on what you say. If you tell her to do something that the Prophet ﷺ condoned, that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged, then that's one thing. As for if you tell her to do something that is extra and beyond the boundaries of the Sunnah, then it isn't an Islamic fatwa. A means of hardship or even a means of negligence. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fid din." So anything pertaining to menses, halal, haram, do or don't, check or not check, should be in the boundaries of what? Of the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. So if checking it is in the boundaries of the Sunnah, la bas. If it's beyond the days of the normal menstrual cycle and it's extreme and it's too much and it's over precaution, then we say it isn't a proper Islamic fatwa. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.
The question says, for those who only know English, where can we go to know the meaning of the words we say in the salah, in the prayer? Inshallah, soon we'll make a video. For that. Check the YouTube channel. Haqq the Truth, H-A-Q-T-H-E, Truth, T-R-U-T-H, Haqq the Truth. Soon we'll make a video explaining what the words you say, the adhkar you say in the salah, what they mean. Now, it says, can it be anyone's right to classify someone as being Khawarij? I think he asked this yesterday also, we didn't answer it. Can it be anyone's right to classify someone as being Khawarij?
At the end of the day, Allah Azza wa Jalla has forbade us from calling each other's names. Calling each other names in derogatory terms. There's no need for you to classify anyone. If someone is from the Khawarij and upon the way of the Khawarij, it's going to become clear. It's going to manifest itself. There's no need for you to speak. There's no need. All you need to do is learn, practice, give the da'wah that you have the ability to give, and that's it. And worry about yourself and your family and your community. As far as me pointing the finger, him pointing the finger, you're Khawarij, you're this, you're that, that's a mess. And that's the mess that we live in today. There's no need for you to label an individual to be of this and to be of that. There's no need. We have enough people that can do that or that do that. There's no need. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
I think I answered most of this here.
Ready?
So it's late though.
طيب
We have
طيب
someone
yeah, نعم طيب تفضل. That's early. Okay.
About burial rituals, it says, after the person dies and is buried, what should the family do? What should the family do? Example, different customs and rituals are done. After someone dies, the only thing you can do for them is dua. The only thing you can do for them, number one, is to make dua for them. Especially if it's your parent. Especially if it's a parent. As the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنِ آدَمٍ قَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ. And he said part of them, when the son of Adam, he passes away, his deeds are cut off except by three. One of them is أَوْوَلَدٌ صَالِحٌ يَدْعُ لَهُ, a righteous child who makes dua, who makes supplication, who asks Allah to forgive and have mercy and raise the degree of their parents. That is the best thing you can do. Another thing you can do, which is very important, is to give sadaqah for them. And in the hadith of Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, radiallahu anhu, when his mom passed away, he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, "Can I make sadaqah for my mom?" And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Yes, وَعَلَيْكَ بِالْمَاءِ." And make sure it is water, meaning dig a well somewhere so people can get water. That is the best sadaqah we can do for someone who passed away. Dig a well so people can get water, especially in parts of the world where people don't have free or easy access to water. Those are the two things we can do for them. You can make dua for them, and you do sadaqah for them. And if they had no ability to do Hajj or Umrah, and you have the ability to do Hajj and Umrah, after you have done your Hajj and Umrah, then you can do Hajj and Umrah for them. Only if they had no ability. The ulama of Islam, they say if someone had the ability to do Hajj and Umrah, but they were just lazy and they just were not serious about it and they never did it in their lifetime, then you don't do it for them after they die. But those who had no ability, whether it is sickness or lack of proper funds or whatever it is, you can do for them Hajj and Umrah. This is what I can remember right now. Wallahu a'lam.
Question says, are belly button piercings haram, and are females allowed to wear makeup and pray? As far as a belly button piercing, then the people of knowledge of today, they have different views with regards to piercings. We know that there are hadith that speak on a woman piercing her ear, and that the women from the Sahaba, they gave and they threw their earrings. They threw their what? Their earrings. It's clear, authentic tradition. As far as a woman getting her nose pierced, or a woman getting her belly button pierced, or any other part of the body pierced, is it permissible or is it impermissible? Some of the people of knowledge, they may say it's permissible because we have no specific text prohibiting it. It's a worldly tradition, it's a worldly act. It's not necessarily an act of worship, an act of devotion. So therefore, it goes back to the asl. هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Allah says Allah created everything for you on the earth. So this proves that everything from the dunya that has nothing to do with worship or devotion is permissible until clearly proven to be impermissible. And other ulama, they may say, no, it's haram to get these types of piercings because they're imitating the kuffar. They're means of changing Allah's creation, which is a means of curse. Some of them may say it has a origin of devil worship, of Satanism, pleasing Satan, and so on and so forth. Different views among the ulama with regards to these types of things. Getting a piercing in more than one place in the body. And some of the ulama, they may say just the nose, and some of them may say even the face. Even the face, if it's traditional. Me personally, like I said, I don't know of specific dalil from Kitab and Sunnah stating the impermissibility of it. In my humble knowledge, I haven't heard anything from Kitab and Sunnah stating that it's haram.